This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
Well, we knew this was coming, Real Talkers. We knew that, well, we thought we knew. John, there were some things we knew. There were some things we thought we knew. But we were pretty sure that on Sunday, Prime Minister Mark Carney was going to call an election, and we were pretty sure that it was going to be set for Monday, April 28th, and both of those things are true. Now, there were some things that we were pretty darn certain about in our most recent episode of Real Talk, and we're grateful for those of you that caught it, but some things have changed. I gave firsthand testimony of standing in a print shop, for example, John, and watching hundreds, nay, thousands and thousands of electoral lawn signs coming off the press for a certain high-profile and polarizing candidate, and I told you, Real Talkers, that we had a scoop, that he was running in a certain riding, and of course, over the weekend, it turned out not to be true. Our Randy Boissonneau scoop was much ado about nothing, and many of you gleefully, albeit playfully, reminding me of that over the weekend. We have an unofficial, unscientific Twitter poll to get to. We ran it over the weekend on who you're going to vote for, and it indicates an absolute landslide coming up. And we've got two of our favorite commentators, especially when they're paired together, the co-hosts of The Discourse, joining us today, Erika, Barootes, Cheryl, Oates, as we kick off 5 straight weeks of federal election coverage right here on Real Talk. We're going to hit the ground running in 30 seconds. First, I want to let you know this episode is happening with the presenting sponsorship of Alberta's top online real estate school. You can find them at relo.ca. That's where better real estate training starts. Alberta's top online real estate school for a number of different reasons. It's learning online for the bold and ambitious. And wherever you're at in your career, they can help you find the next level. We were reading you that email, that testimonial from JR up in northern Alberta last week, wrote in to say, you know, they've been practicing commercial real estate for a while. They're going back through Relo so they can offer residential real estate services as well. Maybe you're just getting started. You're going to want to make sure you go to Relo and nowhere else. They're the only ones with experienced instructors ready to help you out whenever you need them. You can get licensed easily with clearly explained concepts and helpful instruction. And we're going to keep some money in your pocket as well. When you sign up for the Alberta residential or commercial real estate bundles, make sure you use the promo code Ryan100. That's all one word, Ryan100, to knock $100 off each of them when you get started today at relo.ca. So Prime Minister Mark Carney goes to the Governor General, asks for, well, basically, you remember, friends, today, the 24th of March was when prorogation was to end. Remember, Justin Trudeau kind of pressed pause on the whole thing, and parliamentarians were to be going back today, and we have a pretty good sense of what would happen had they done so. You know that the Conservatives and probably the New Democrats and everybody else would have most likely worked to bring a vote of non-confidence, to bring that government down. Instead, Mark Carney says, under his watch and early on his watch as Liberal leader, Canadians will vote April 28th. We'll be covering this every day from a bunch of different angles. We'll be telling you about some exciting partnerships that we're rolling out through the election campaign. That's all going to happen this week, but we wanted to kick it off with two familiar faces. They know exactly what they're talking about when it comes to campaigns. They're the co-hosts of The Discourse, one of Canada's most downloaded political podcasts. Cheryl Oates and Erika, Barootes, joining us on this Monday morning. A good Monday morning to both of you. I never know where we're going to catch you, Cheryl. You look like you're down in Calgary. Is that where you are too, Erika?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, good stuff.
Oh, you sound good.
I know. It wasn't from partying. It was from playing with kids yesterday.
Playing with kids? Well, okay.
My cousin just had her third baby.
Were you doing that to distract yourself from all the political things that are happening, or just a little family time to unplug? Is that possible?
Well, I was on a political panel with lots of the NDP from Alberta, the Young Politicians of Canada in Calgary. So did a 2 birds, 1 stone trip to get some family time before I probably knock a lot of doors.
Yeah, no kidding. So I'm curious everybody knows who you guys are, but Erika, Barootes, a longtime Conservative founding president of the United Conservative Party, and of course Cheryl Oates, directed comms for Alberta's Premier Rachel Notley, and most recently managed the campaign for the Saskatchewan New Democrats. So both of you are obviously very familiar with campaign mode and how it all kicks off. Cheryl, everybody's talking about Donald Trump in the United United States. This election, everybody says, is probably going to have nothing to do with the carbon tax. We'll see. We can hash that out. But on this first Monday of the campaign, what's the number one story that you're keeping an eye on right now?
Well, I think it's really interesting. If you look at a campaign, typically it's really tough to keep voters' attention for the whole campaign period, especially a federal campaign, 36 days. It's tough to keep people engaged the whole time. Now, with a threat from what used to be our closest allies, that could be really different in this campaign. But typically, people are paying attention right now. When the writ drops, when the election just got called, everybody's listening to how are the parties going to set up themselves and differentiate themselves from their opponents. And so that's what I'm watching this week. And so far, I mean, we saw a tax cut from the Liberals. We saw a tax cut from the Conservatives. And we haven't seen a lot of big promises from the NDP. So, I mean, the idea that an election has started, I think, is the biggest news. But how are these parties going to keep people engaged?
Erika, top story that you're keeping an eye on, technically on day 2, but we'll say it day 1, the first Monday.
Yeah, well, I live in Edmonton Centre, and Randy Boissonnault just stepped down. So I'd love to know who the candidate is. That's one for close to home. I'm looking to see, again, they're both coming out pretty conservative agendas by the two lead parties. So I want to see truly what they think is going to help the economy in all of their things and their differentiators. You saw the list of Carney's stuff coming out of the gate, and Pierre, and someone even asked Carney why he's not running for the Conservative Party based on an agenda. So to Cheryl's point, what's going to differentiate these two front runners? And if the Liberals are going to pick up the NDP seats.
Eleanor Olszewski, by the way, the Liberal candidate in Edmonton Centre. Yeah, she was the candidate.
She was Strathcona, yeah.
In Edmonton, Strathcona.
I want to see that. I've never seen that. I've seen people jump, but I've never seen that happen this close, or in the sense that she probably has a lot of really good data from Strathcona. I get that she's moving, but I think that's an interesting thing from a political nerd to watch her launch a campaign this way.
Okay, so let's we'll obviously talk about national issues. We'll talk about big campaign promises and that sort of a thing. But why don't we zero in on Edmonton Centre? Just because 2 of the 3 people talking right now live in the riding, and it's also probably, I mean, to be honest, it's a top 5 riding to watch in the province of Alberta. It's probably a top 10 riding to watch across the country. To be honest with you, for people that aren't familiar, the incumbent Randy Boissonnault, obviously an embattled MP. He's had his PR problems over the past year or so. I think everybody knows about that, and the other Randy and the claims of Indigenous heritage and the government contracts and the like. So it sounds like Randy Boissonnault is not going to run. We're going, there's no way that Randy Boissonnault is going to run. And then I share with Real Talkers the inside scoop. This is a 100% true story. Late last week, I'm in a print shop for unrelated business. I'm in there minding my own business, and I look over and I see sheets and sheets and sheets and sheets and sheets of Randy Boissonnault lawn signs coming off the printer. And so I ask if I can video this, and the guy says, absolutely not. And I say, when was this order placed? And he says, recently. And he tells me, so I go on the show and I say, we have the hot scoop, because I saw it with my own eyes, that they're spending, you guys tell me how much, they've got to be $4 or $5 a sign, right? So if you're printing, how many lawn signs in a hotly contested riding would you say? 20?
Sorry, was this in a Staples?
No, I can't. It was not in a Staples.
It was a sign,
it was a legit,
like a local print shop. Got it.
I know who the Liberals use.
Don't say the name of the shop, because as soon as the guy figured out how keen I was about what I was seeing, he realized I shouldn't be seeing it. When you get into a situation like that. Long story short, so I go, that's Thursday afternoon. Friday, I go on the show. I say, I can confirm that Randy, I go, unless somebody's spending $40,000 on lawn signs. Well, it turns out somebody just spent $40,000 on lawn signs.
Well, you placed those orders, he could have printed them 3 weeks ago too.
Yeah,
and
fair.
Just held them. But this is something where, Mark Carney coming here. There's been rumors of 5 other people running, dropped in candidates. But sorry, I want to hear where you're going with this story. I'm just saying, they have to count it as writ. So this is an interesting thing too of how does he file?
Well, yeah, exactly. So I guess the point of all of this is to say on Friday, I have a certain degree of confidence that Randy Boissonnault is going to run in the riding, but I'm still saying and holding to my position, which is I don't see how he can do it. And number two, I don't know how Carney can allow it. This is the new leader. It's a riding that they could win, and I suspect they're not going to win with him there. And Randy Boissonnault endorsed Chrystia Freeland. So, like, it just doesn't make any sense. So over the weekend, Real Talkers know, because they were blowing up my Twitter and having a lot of fun with it, Randy Boissonnault says, after consultation with my friends and my family, I've decided I'm not going to run. So then, Cheryl, everybody goes, well, it's either going to be Mark Carney or it's going to be Don Iveson. Everybody has their theories. Well, it turns out it's going to be neither of them. It's going to be a longtime Liberal volunteer and candidate and donor and a respected community member, Eleanor Olszewski. Cheryl, what's your sense of what the hell's going on in Edmonton Centre? With respect to Eleanor, it kind of feels like, they're almost giving up on a riding that they might have a shot of winning.
Mm-hmm. Well, sorry, they might have a shot of winning Centre, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she moved. Sorry, I haven't followed.
So
she was from Strathcona. She ran last time in Strathcona,
and she moved to Centre.
And she moved to Centre.
But I think that makes sense.
Boissonnault pulled out.
But I think that makes sense for her because Strathcona is like Strathcona is a solid NDP seat, right?
Yeah.
And right now, Centre is a toss-up between all three parties. So if she wants a shot, if she's really like a long-time Liberal supporter, respected, like, yeah, move her to a seat where she's actually got a shot.
It just doesn't, for me, to her, it makes sense. To the federal Liberal Party. I'm trying to like be respectful for sure. But like the average voter does not know who that is. The average, and again, everyone's throwing Don Iveson's name in. There's been no indication that he's actually interested in that job right now. Carney's obviously going to run in Nepean, just outside Ottawa, but it says to me that maybe there's not a lot of like high-level, prominent, name-recognized individuals that would be interested in throwing their hat in the ring in a riding that could be won.
It's also, though, like, this is on a different timeline than most elections run on. Like, usually, you've kind of got some runway and you have a leader in place for more than a couple of weeks before your election, and you're hoping to have all your candidates nominated before the writ drops. So I imagine that they did talk to a whole bunch of high-profile people, pardon me, who were thinking about that riding. And if they're not willing to pull the trigger, like, it's too close now. You just got to move on. So it's possible that they had a nice big list there, but no one was really ready to go at a moment's notice.
So Erika,
I want to know when she came in, because I was talking with a bunch of friends on our run. I'm like, I think we've got Eleanor. I heard it from conservative circles. Like, we were talking about who is the Liberal candidate now. And then I sent that to a group, and they came back and they were like, well, Eleanor, it still says Eleanor for Strathcona. Like, I wonder when the switch came. I agree with Cheryl. Like, for Eleanor, it traditionally is NDP. It will go conservative in Edmonton, Strathcona. Like, those are it kind of goes in that order. And so as a Liberal and a long time, like, move over. Let's just hope Randy shared some good data on his way out because she's starting at a few steps back of not knowing the lay of the land like she knows Strathcona. So I think it was a strategic move for her political career. But we'll see how she has to play catch up. And again, like, the argument comes is like local candidate versus the party brand versus the leader. There's a lot of weight put on those top two. And Edmonton Centre traditionally goes the way the government goes. So that's also, if it's going to be a Carney government, like, she's in a better position. Strathcona doesn't do that.
The other thing, sorry, just before we move off of this, the other thing, like, if I'm the Liberals and I've just gone through all of this with Randy Boissonnault, like, maybe it's no bad thing to have someone that nobody knows that doesn't have a whole bunch of skeletons in the closet, that isn't like as likely to induce a scandal. Like, maybe it's nice just to have someone who's already been vetted, who's already been approved, quietly go into the riding.
We're going to hear from Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre in just a bit. We'll hear from Liberal leader Mark Carney as well, but I want to just ask you too about kind of the structure of the election and your thoughts on it. It is the shortest allowable campaign in Canada. It is literally by the day the shortest allowable. Is this as simple as Mark Carney wants to capitalize on polling? He wants to capitalize on the honeymoon period. Do you think, Cheryl, that's what it is strategically for the Liberals?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. That's why we're into an election at this moment. That's part of the reason. I think the other thing is, like, is it really good for Canada to be in an election period right now? Like, just politics aside, I personally feel as a Canadian voter, the sooner the better. Like, let's just move on to someone who has a mandate from Canadians, who can, take the prime minister's chair and deal with the United States and deal with Donald Trump as the prime minister, not during an election period. I think that's totally fine to use as an excuse or a reality to say, let's have a quick election. 36 days is not nothing. Like, people are going to be paying attention to this election period. And then let's move into the next phase of making sure that Canada is economically secure.
I feel like people are going to be paying closer attention to this election than any election in recent memory. And I know we always say that. It's like, Chris Harrison on The Bachelor and Chris Harrison. Geez, who is it? Jesse Palmer now. Sorry, everybody. It's been a few years. But
God, I don't know.
It's always the most dramatic finale of all time. But this one, there's just so much at stake. It feels different. There's a conservative leader that has like owned the polls for like a year. There's a new, like a rookie liberal leader, but high profile in his own right. Obviously, stateside, there's wild things going on. The economy's all banged up. Erika, how do you expect that impacts the campaign itself?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Cheryl. I think they'll say that it is to create stability and go in to have a quick mandate. I think that's a fair point from their side. But I do think also Canadians don't know Mark Carney like they know Pierre Poilievre. And so what I've seen is he's not maybe the best at talking to the press. And if you don't like that about Pierre, you're kind of learning that Mike Carney might be the same type of candidate. The quicker, the better for them. They need to capitalize on the highest polling they've had in the last 18 months. So strategically, I totally get why they would call this a short election, and have those two reasons. So I do think that this is going to be one, like, if folks don't know, a provincial election is 28 days. As campaigners, that feels like a lifetime. And so even when you go into this and it's like 35 to 51 days of an election, like, this is on the shorter end. The last one we would have saw that was really long was Harper's in 2015, called it for as long as it could go. And I was running a local campaign and it was like horrific. Like, you motivation wise to keep going and get volunteers engaged and people are listening. You want to get people's attention. This actually will do that. 35 days, people will be hyper laser focused. And it is unique that will be used as a case study for years to come because there's international threats, there's interprovincial trade, and we want someone that's going to create an environment that helps all provinces thrive. And then you've got a newbie and someone that people don't know. So it's going to be very interesting, and a Conservative Party that's dropped significantly, or the front runner. And so it's going to be really interesting, regardless of what side you're from, for how these players play out the next 36 days.
Cheryl, to you in just a second. Let me put the results of an unofficial, unscientific Twitter poll in front of you. Now, everybody's heads are going to explode when they see this. Had some fun yesterday. Asked Twitter followers, and anybody can chime in on this. If it was today, who would you be voting for? Check this out. 13,500 votes. You want to talk landslide territory? 77% of respondents in this unofficial, unscientific poll say they're voting Conservative. Just under 15% say they're voting Liberal. And then we gave an option, an NDP vote, which is less than 1%. That stings. And then other, which was 8%. We said, tell us below. And it's all PPC voters that are pissed off that I didn't name Maxime Bernier as an option in the polls. So there you have it. I mean, I know that Pierre Poilievre would be thrilled with 77% of the votes, and obviously probably form the largest majority government in Canadian history. I don't seriously think that the poll will stick, but Cheryl, what does the Conservative leader have to do to pull this off?
to pull the Twitter poll off, I think that's going to be a bit of a
77%.
And like I've said many, many times, thank goodness elections are not decided on Twitter. I think, though, Ryan, this says something, one, about Twitter and one, about the people who are listening to your show.
I was going to say, I always criticize the opposite.
I know. And actually, it's kind of funny because I saw one really intuitive comment from just a really respectful comment from someone who said, the poll did not go the way this homosexual intellectual wanted it to. And I just was really grateful for that informed political commentary. For the podcast listeners, both of our guests are very confused as to why I would read that comment in particular. Yep. But it was character assault after character assault on, but people were all twisted up and they didn't know what to do, because the typical talking point is that Jesperson's show is a bunch of lefties and libtards. And when 77% of poll respondents said that they were voting Conservative, people didn't know what to do with it. I was wondering myself whether or not it's just the
I love that result.
Well, yeah, but Erika, is it that the Conservatives are better organized on X, just like in real life? Or is it that X entirely as a platform is completely changing? I don't know. We can leave that up to the audience.
I was going to say, well, based on the effort of hating me on X, I think that the left is pretty well organized on X, but I don't know. I would be interested to see where those people also live, right? Like, you have a national reach. We're more Alberta focused of is that reflective of Albertans versus the rest of Canada? Either way, I think we're maybe giving too much time to your fake Twitter poll.
Yeah, I think
also,
so.
Just for the record, Ryan, New Democrats and people who would be seen as left and more progressive think you're a conservative. So it all balances out.
Yeah, I know. We don't need to litigate where I am on the spectrum. I just always find it really, really entertaining and really funny. But in all seriousness, Cheryl, we kind of cut you off in talking about Poilievre's strategy. We got a bit of a hint of it. I mean, obviously, we know where he's going to hammer Carney, but he's going to have to shake things up a little bit. Poilievre, just along the river yesterday on Sunday, talking to Canadians just a few moments after Mark Carney's announcement. Here's Poilievre.
You ask about the concerns of people on the street. What I hear from people on the street is they are concerned that after the lost Liberal decade, they can't afford homes. They're eating at food banks or cutting back on nutrition. They're worried about crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder. And they're worried that that Canada and our economy is now more dependent than ever on the Americans after the Liberals blocked pipelines, stopped resource development, and gave America our resources at a discount. And what I say to those people is that change is on the way. We're going to put Canada first. We're going to axe taxes, unleash home building, produce our resources here in Canada and export them overseas by going around the Americans, so that we can take back control of our economy and our national destiny. That's what it means to put Canada first for a change.
Merci, on va passer la dernière
so that's
question.
Pierre Poilievre, and obviously some of the familiar talking points. We're going to axe the taxes. Carney did something similar. Says we're going to cut the taxes, GST on new homes or homes under $1 million. Carney came in and did that, taking some talking points away. But Cheryl, a subtle evolution now. He's saying, listen, the Liberals have had 10 years to deal with the United States, and they've blown it. Is that subtle change in language going to be enough?
Quite a bit of subtle change in Poilievre's language, even since Mark Carney became the leader. You've seen him lean in a little bit harder into having some policy to go with his rhymes and talking points. That's new because Mark Carney is laying out more detailed proposals to Canadians. I think in terms of what Poilievre needs to do if he wants to win the election is appeal to more than just the solid conservative base. As we've seen in the polls, there's a group of people, and they're not, all moving from the Conservatives. Some of them are moving from the New Democrats to the Liberals. But speak to those people who were Liberal supporters who had come over to the Conservatives saying we want change and have now gone back. He needs to broaden his language because those people are not enticed by conservative talking points. They're not enticed by axe the tax. They're not enticed by drill, baby, drill. They're enticed by thoughtful policy about how he's going to lead Canada forward. And I think that he needs to position himself as something different than Donald Trump, because that's what a lot of people are worried about, having a mini Trump, a mega guy in Canada. He needs to prove to Canadians that that's not who he is and that he has a plan to stand up to Donald Trump.
Erika, does Pierre Poilievre need to hold the course on the personality that they've shaped? I mean, his entire political career has kind of been building to this moment if you've watched the evolution, but he's been on a real track with, how they're marketing him and the type of tone that he takes and the slogans he's using. Do you double down on it, pedal to the metal, or is he going to have to make some adjustments?
I think even as you've seen, or he he just released something this morning saying axe the tolls, and that is for Islanders. So I think you'll see him weave some of that in, but Cheryl's right. He needs to pivot away from sound bites because he's got that base. He's got that audience. And even if the polls, the recent ones, are correct that the Liberals and Conservatives are neck and neck, that means that he's lost some of those middle ground, fiscally conservative, maybe socially liberal voters. And he does need to start appeasing to the broader Canadian public, not just the conservative base. And I think we have seen that. He came out, with quite a list of different interprovincial freedoms that he would put in place, permitting, some housing stuff. He's got to put the proof in the pudding. And we've all been expecting that because now you're in a writ period. And so I do think he's making that shift. I don't want to see a full 180 because I think that would come off as inauthentic to who he is. But we've already seen the shift in Carney when he took leader. And now even in the campaign, his tone is and his focus is very much on the policies and fleshing those out, which I think conservatives are looking for, or people that have recently now might be swing voters to the Liberals are looking for. So we'll see how he holds that line, but he did need to pivot. I think that message was received, and he is starting to get off of sound bites.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I don't think you can do a 180 with a personality as strong as his and most political leaders. You can't 180 someone's personality. Number one, nobody's going to buy it. It would be shocking. Number two, I don't think they can pull it off. Interesting conversations over the weekend as an interview with a pretty high profile conservative American platform. Breitbart has exploded. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith granting the interview to Breitbart's Washington correspondent Matthew Boyle. This is back on the 8th of March. This has been out there for a while, in which she talks about conversations that she had in the United States, asking them to chill out on the trade war, essentially. We're going to show you the interview, play a little bit of it so you can decide for yourself. But basically she says, guys, like all this tariff stuff, the trade war, it's hurting us. It's hurting the conservatives. It's helping Mark Carney. So can you guys, the Americans, kind of chill out on all of this until our election wraps up? Here's how the interview went.
Pierre Poilievre is the name of the Conservative Party leader, and he was miles ahead of Justin Trudeau. But because of the what we see as unjust and unfair tariffs, it's actually caused an increase in the support for the Liberals. And so that's what I fear, is that the longer this dispute goes on, politicians posture, and it seems to be benefiting the Liberals right now. So I would hope that we could put things on pause. This is what I've told administration officials. Let's just put things on pause so we can get through an election. Let's have the best person at the table make the argument for how they would deal with it. And I think that's Pierre Poilievre. And I do agree with you that if we do have Pierre as our prime minister, then I think that there's a number of things that we could do together. Pierre believes in development. He believes in low-cost energy. He believes that we need to have low taxes. Doesn't believe in any of the woke stuff that we've seen taking over our politics for the last 5 years. So I would think that there's probably still always going to be areas that are skirmishes or disputes about particular industries when it comes to the border. But I would say on balance, the perspective that Pierre would bring would be very much in sync with, I think, where the new direction in America.
Who was on this sleep apnea machine there in the background?
I think somebody was on a ventilator during that interview. I don't really know what was going on. But people are calling this, I mean, basically an invitation for election interference. Some people are saying Smith needs to resign. I guarantee she's not going to. But I've seen some people saying that this could really hurt Pierre Poilievre. Could it? What do you think, Cheryl?
The whole thing is just, like, I think most people, even if you're not deep into politics and you listen to that, you're watching the Alberta Premier call on the United States not to work with Canada, but to back down to help her, the guy who she has political allegiance to, win the federal election. Like, what a weird use of your political capital. And yes, that is calling on the United States in at least some form to interfere in Canada's election, to use their power to affect Canada's election. And it's absolutely irresponsible. Plus, I think for those who have everywhere I go, people are like, everything Danielle Smith has done has impacted how the US has responded to Canada. Tariffs on energy is lower because Danielle Smith is so influential. But following this call, whoever she talked to at the United States to say back off so Pierre Poilievre can do better, we saw the president come out and say, I want to work with a liberal. So clearly she's not as influential as everyone's telling me.
Erika, is there any way on your end? I know you'd love to find a way to justify this, but I've seen a lot of people, even conservatives, say this is a tough look for the premier. Why would she do it?
Listen, if people are watching the discourse right now, I am not towing a party line on a lot of my messaging. So I'm not going to today. Yeah, I was like, here we go. So I'm going to give her a little grace, thinking that she was trying to be helpful. She was not. When the leader of your counterpart, like, who wouldn't think, like, going back to Cheryl and I both are heavy in comms worlds in our careers. It's like, who is your audience? I just can't pick who Danielle Smith was talking to. Like, is she talking to a conservative base in the US in hopes that they will sway the president's thought process? I don't think that works. But you also saw then Pierre Poilievre have to come out and answer about his counterpart, the premier of Alberta, a conservative ally, for her comments. And this was twice, once after her Carney comments, and then also after several of these interviews or comments she's made. So if I was Pierre, I'd call the premier up and be like, just shush. Like, I thank you for your efforts. She's got to continue, standing up for Alberta. But I do think that this has pivoted off of the messaging of what the Conservative Party is trying to achieve. And we're in election period. So to every Conservative leader across our province, I hope that they are, like, in the premiership, just be quiet. Let the Conservative Party run the narrative. And thank you for not helping.
It's just
it's helping.
I'm not about to offer up anything profound, but it's just been very interesting to watch. In particular, Danielle Smith and Doug Ford, and for that matter, Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney doing interviews with like Bill Maher and Jon Stewart and that kind of thing. But like the American conservative media circuit that those two premiers in Alberta and Ontario have been doing, quite frankly, it's remarkable. Like they're booking the biggest interviews on the biggest shows, but like we don't typically see that. And it's not Poilievre doing the interviews, I guess, because Poilievre's trying to, I don't know, speak to Canadians. But Cheryl, like it almost feels like it's turning into this thing that's maybe becoming even a little bit bigger or losing focus around the whole point of doing it all in the first place. Right? I mean, the premier's taking off now to go back down to Florida to do this event with Ben Shapiro. And it's like, yeah, Ben Shapiro, amazing. And like, yeah, you're going to be around all the big name American conservatives, but like, you're the fucking premier of Alberta. Like, what are you doing? Danielle Smith has spent more time in the United States. I don't know if this is technically true, but it sure feels like it. And optics is everything. More time in the U.S. since Trump became president than in Alberta. I mean, what the hell's going on?
If under normal circumstances, I can see a world where, you have a problem with a Republican leader, you go talk to their supporters and say, pressure your leader to do the right thing here. I can see a world where that would be a worthwhile effort, no matter what coalition of people you're talking to. In these particular circumstances, Donald Trump's not listening to anybody. Donald Trump's not listening to Fox News. He's not listening to whatever Danielle Smith's next speaking engagement is. He's not listening to any of the right-wing media that's currently interviewing Canadian leaders. He's not even listening to the people around his table in Washington. So to me, it seems like more of a, watch me doing stuff kind of play. Like Danielle Smith wants to show that she's busy. She's running out of real opportunities to look like she's taking action. And so every time she can put in her political calendar, I'm taking a trip, I'm doing this, I'm lobbying on behalf of Alberta, that's a check for her. It's also not a day that she's talking about the procurement scandal inside her own government. So that's another benefit for her.
Look at that pivot.
But true. Right.
Yeah.
But true.
But you know what? I support like her going down, talking to, like Cheryl said, talk to the masses. Ben Shapiro is very influential, but to Cheryl's point, like, who is really influential to Donald Trump? And they might advise him one thing and he says something different. I support this until a writ is dropped. When Canadians are paying attention, I think now it is need to be, let's focus. If you really want a Pierre Poilievre government, which she clearly does, support that. Echo what he's saying, be part of the team as opposed to, and I get that this was probably booked months in advance, but you knew that an election was coming. So I don't get the what is the value add for this in this moment. It's probably going to do more harm to the Conservative Party of Canada than it will be helpful.
That's Erika, Barootes, Cheryl Oates, her podcast partner. We're talking to them on essentially day one of our coverage of the federal election. We're not letting them go yet, but I want to take this opportunity to encourage you to go subscribe to the Discourse on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And when you find them on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find them, make sure not only do you subscribe, but that you rate and review the podcast as well. That'll really help them out. Their most recent episode, Carney calls a snap election. Is Poilievre doomed? More from Cheryl and Erika in just a quick second, including Amarjeet Sohi, the mayor of Edmonton. He's running in Edmonton Southeast. We got at least one of our calls correct, Johnny, which is good. Plus, we want to ask him about this. Have you seen this video? It seems like everybody's talking about it. Mark Carney tapped one of Canada's great comedians, Mike Myers, on the shoulder for this elbows up thing. Can the celebrity factor help or harm a candidate through an election? We'll get to that. But first, I want to talk to you about what's happening with our friends at Edmonton Opera. They've just released their 2025-26 season, and this is a big deal. It's a season of legacy. Some legacies are passed down and others must be claimed. And in this season, 25-26, Edmonton Opera explores what it means to inherit, build, and redefine a legacy through a bold lineup of performances and special events. The season will open with Bravi, that's opera's greatest hits, a grand celebration of opera's most powerful and timeless music in partnership with the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra. That'll take place at the Winspear Centre October 9th and 11th. In February, audiences will witness the premiere of Indians on Vacation. That's a poignant and comedic new opera based on Thomas King's novel of the same name. That's going to be happening February 5th, 6th, and 7th at the Northern Alberta Jubilee Auditorium. And the season will conclude with the third chapter of Wagner's the legendary Ring cycle. If you know Wagner, you know this one, Siegfried, where fate is forged in fire. An epic tale of heroism and fate will be performed at the McLab Theatre at the Citadel coming up later in May. You can get all the details today. Buy your tickets at edmontonopera.com. I'm very excited coming up on the 12th of April to be hosting Clearwater's Clear Futures, presented by Innovative Canadians for Change. This right here in our home city of Edmonton. You can learn more at ichange.ca. That's I, the letter C, change.ca. Innovative Canadians for Change is a not-for-profit organization based in Edmonton, established about 15 years ago, dedicated to tackling systemic global challenges through innovation, entrepreneurship, and sustainability. They specialize in developing and scaling solutions that address critical needs in healthcare, clean water access, energy security, food security, dignified living, and economic empowerment. We're going to be presenting a Real Talk Roundtable to learn a little bit more about what this group does, but you can check them out online today. We'll put the link in the show notes and grab your tickets. That's the IC Change Annual Gala Clean Water, Clear Futures, April 12th. I'm thrilled to be hosting it. I hope to see you there, Real Talkers. North Road Investment Council knows that this is a time when all Canadians are going to be talking bottom lines. They're going to be deciding which political party they'll trust with the federal budget. They're going to be looking at how our relationship with our trading partners is impacting the Canadian dollar and ultimately their investments. Building, preserving, and protecting wealth takes expertise and careful planning. North Road Investment Council offering bespoke strategies for investing, financial planning, insurance, and digital risk. You can connect with Marshall Carey and their team today. Plus, take that digital risk quiz. Find out, could you be more vulnerable than you realize? You'll find it all on their website. That's northroadic.com. And a quick personal story for you, friends, before we get back to Erika and Cheryl. Last night, it's a Sunday night. The family's together. John, the kids are on spring break. Everybody knows that. Didn't feel like cooking. I thought, well, why don't I pop into our local Friesen Brothers? That's exactly what we did. We grabbed and went with everything that each one of us wanted, including a mother dough Big Berta pizza. It's fresh, not frozen. You pop it in your oven. It pops out $15, tasting better than anything you're going to order for delivery. We went with the ginger beef and rice and the pulled pork and mac and cheese.
Love that ginger.
And I'm going to make, you know what, their ginger beef, pretty fantastic, but I'm going to go ahead and make the Jespo recommendation this week, the pulled pork with the mac and cheese.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't dry. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. And their mac and cheese just like, I mean, I had the 2-year-old, our little 2-year-old eyeing it up. He's like, you going to finish that? You going to finish that?
Give me a bite.
Oh, I couldn't help but share. You can find Friesen Brothers in 16 different Alberta communities. Don't forget, the first of every month, they'll knock 15% off grocery purchases of $75 or more.
Yeah, don't forget, the best thing about Friesen Bros, they got that plant-based ginger beef as well.
Oh, yeah. Have you tried it?
Oh, my God.
Is it good?
Just as good. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they make it taste like meat now, but they do. Hey, another unofficial poll on our YouTube right now.
Okay.
The election was held today. Who would you be voting for? It's been about 10 minutes it's been up. 84% Carney, 14% Poilievre, other 1%. So I don't know if that's indicative of the social media apps or what, but there's another one.
10 minutes. Interesting to see. We'll see how that plays out over 24 hours or so. I know that sometimes we'll put polls up on our Spotify. Why don't we do that today as well? I saw this from Randy in our live chat powered by Park Power. He says, Jespo, in the name of balance, Randy says, haha, he's joking around. He says, but let's have a poll on this platform right now. So you can poll on YouTube, you can poll on X. Listen, all that matters at the end of the day is what Canadians vote on the 28th of April. Erin's watching us live on LinkedIn right now, and she says, Twitter's changing, X is changing. She says, I'm a progressive voter. I am no longer on X. That from Erin. Interesting stuff. We're hanging out with the co-hosts of The Discourse. Make sure you subscribe to them on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. It's Cheryl Oates and Erika Barootes. I want to ask you both about the mayor of Edmonton, Amarjeet Sohi. Of course, he's been a city councillor. He's the mayor of Edmonton right now. He has been a Liberal MP and a Liberal cabinet minister under Justin Trudeau, and he wants to be a Liberal MP under Mark Carney. So he's seeking election in the riding of Edmonton Southeast. He has not resigned as Edmonton's mayor. He's stepping away, earning criticism from those that are always ripping him, but also probably more prominently and maybe more meaningfully from Tim Cartmel, his council colleague, who also wants to be the mayor of Edmonton. He's already thrown his hat into the ring. He did it right here on Real Talk. He says, quote, given that Mayor Sohi is no longer interested in city matters, the responsible decision would have been to resign. It would have allowed Edmonton City Council to take necessary contingency actions and focus on the best needs of the city. Instead, we are an odd state of limbo, waiting for the drama of federal politics to run its course. Erika, is there any justification for Mayor Sohi to step away, or must he resign, in your opinion?
I think regardless of what your political allegiance is that if you want to take a different job, step out of the role completely that you did. This is Sohi's second time leaving council to go run federally. So the criticism on him, I think, is completely just that he's being an opportunist in this scenario. And you know what? There's an election in October. Like, he's going to be there. He's going to leave. He's going to come back in May if he loses. I think it just shows that he's not confident that he can win. I would rather him step down, remove himself, let council get through a lot of the crap I think we in Edmonton want the council to address in these next several months before the election. My voice sounds horrible. But I think Cartmel and anyone else that thinks so he should resign is completely just in their opinion.
Cheryl, is there any way to justify taking leave here?
Well, so what a great setup for Sohi, where you get to just like, let's see if I win. And if I don't, I'll be back to my previous elected position. I do think he does get away with it a little bit. I'm not saying it's that I completely agree with it, but I do think that in this particular election, almost everything can be done under the guise of like, this is unprecedented. Our country needs us. Like, I will put my hand up in unprecedented times to fight for our country. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, I'll come fight for our country from the mayor's chair. So I do think that there is a little bit of sympathy for that amongst the public right now. And you're seeing it not just from Amarjeet Sohi, you're seeing it across the country from political leaders, the very top, all the way down to the local level. So I do think he gets away with it a little bit in that context, but do I agree with it? Like, I think it's pretty opportunistic.
Yeah, although at the same time, opportunistic is like, yeah, I mean, obviously, like every politician is opportunistic. Like, that's literally how you survive in politics, is by recognizing opportunities and seizing them. But you two know just as well as anybody, better than most, that it's all about the chips you're holding and when you choose to push them into the middle of the table, right? Like, I mean, he's expending virtually all political capital here, because there's no way, I mean, Erika, you set up the hypothetical, there's no way he takes leave as mayor, loses a federal election, comes back, and then runs to stay the mayor and then wins. Like, there's I don't understand. Right. You would have to mind bend like 100,000 people.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially that. Like, he's not really setting himself up to run again. So, are you just creating a lame duck government when you come back to be mayor and kind of coast through or get whatever pet projects you want? I think it's going to hurt his brand or his reputation should he try to do that. And I don't think he would be successful in that equation. I think Edmontonians would remember what happened 6 months ago and make him pay. But I don't see the long game for him here unless he wins and is guaranteed a cabinet spot. But otherwise, I think it's like his farewell weird roller coaster.
Yeah, Matthew is correct in this. Watching us live on YouTube in our live chat powered by Park Power. Check out parkpower.ca/Real Talk for exclusive deals for Real Talk audience members. Matthew says, to be fair, so he has said on the record that even if he loses federally, he won't run again as mayor. He says he's not going to run as both. I think, well, yeah, like obviously. But it's interesting as well. I mean, we're not here to spend a ton of time talking about the municipal elections now. We can do that later this year. But it does. It's an interesting development in Edmonton, isn't it? Because now people are going, well, there's a few candidates, Andrew Knack, maybe some others, that were not going to run against Amarjeet Sohi, that would be willing to run against Tim Cartmel. So it could add some interesting drama to the Edmonton municipal election, which we can get to on a later date. Before we run out of time with the two of you, I want to pick your brains on this. This is obviously Mark Carney's team calling in all the favors and pulling all the levers, leveraging all the pull and the sway that they have. They got him on Jon Stewart when he was running to be Liberal leader. They got him on the ice with the Edmonton Oilers just ahead of his announcement, or ahead of his conversation anyway, with the Governor General to call the election. It's all part of this elbows up campaign, right? And nobody did a better job on the big stage than one of the all-time SNL greats, Canadian Mike Myers, who appeared with Shane Gillis on that show in New York a couple of weeks ago, wearing the t-shirt "Canada is not for sale," mouthing the words "elbows up." Well, whether it was that Saturday Night Live appearance or something else, it got the Carney team's attention. They tapped Myers on the shoulder to participate in a video that went viral over the past 48 hours. Here it is.
Let's go. Mr. Prime Minister, Mike Myers, what are you doing here?
I just thought I'd come up and check on things.
You live in the States.
Yeah, but I'll always be Canadian.
But you live in the States.
Yeah, so?
Do you remember Mr. Dressup?
The children's show on CBC?
What were the names of Mr. Dressup's two puppet friends?
Casey and Finnegan?
Bud the
Spud?
Howie?
Meeker?
Capital Saskatchewan?
Regina?
Tragically?
Hip?
You're a defenseman, defending a 2-on-1. What do you do?
Take away the pass, obviously.
What are the two seasons in Toronto?
Winter and construction.
Wow. You really are Canadian.
Yeah. But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right. Elbows up.
Elbows up.
So there you have it. And then Canada Strong reads the headline. Now, you see some folks immediately, Carney critics, jumping up and saying, Mike Myers, Lori Goldstein, probably the most prominent, the Sun columnist over the weekend, says, Carney's got 3 passports. Myers has 3 passports. 2 people with 6 passports telling us what it means to be Canadian. Obviously, trying to take away from the impact of the campaign. Others absolutely love it. Cheryl, does this automatically help Mark Carney? Is it a kind of a curious move, all the talk about you live in America but you're still Canadian, or do you think it's a home run?
Well, I mean, I watched it wondering, like, why did they script it this way? Like, you have so many seconds to get the public's attention, but it was like, Mike Myers is probably a net help. People like him, and that's like the ultimate goal of campaigns, is like, did people watch that ad and be like, I like Mark Carney more because I like Mike Myers. But the obvious question is, like, this guy doesn't live in Canada, and they sort of use that beginning of the ad to go right at that criticism and cut it off. So I do think it's a net benefit. I also think it's more demonstration for Mark Carney that he's willing to take risks that typically politicians aren't willing to take. Skating with the Oilers, like, that is a huge risk for a politician. Most you don't see most politicians aligning themselves with local sports teams, and you don't see most politicians doing an ad like this that Mark Carney just did. So I think he is demonstrating he's willing to take bigger risks for the potential payoff in the end.
I thought that the skating with the Oilers was actually a bigger risk for the Oilers. It kind of like, I don't know if the comments from Oilers fans were pretty one-sided, but then again, I mean, yeah, he's the Liberal leader through this campaign, but he's also the Prime Minister of Canada. Mm-hmm. And at that time, anyway, he was. And you don't see the Prime Minister, like, when was the last time you saw a Prime Minister skating with an NHL club? Erika, did you think it was riskier for Carney or for the Oilers?
I think it was the Oilers, honestly. I thought the ad was cute. I think it's definitely speaking to one generation, which might be us, about like Austin Powers, Mike Myers, all those references were not something that the young voter would relate to. So I'll give him credit. I thought it was cute. It was, like Cheryl said, a little bit riskier in his approach. But I think this actually, like, oil country, Edmonton Oilers, he is the Prime Minister, but on the eve of an election, the Edmonton, the Oiler Entertainment Group took a huge risk here. I don't think the players they might feel it from the fans, but they didn't make that decision. They were like, okay, like, this dude who, I love that you and Johnny talked about his skating, because I was like, like, I thought he'd be better. But I think it was more of a risk for him. He just looks like an approachable guy skating with I have access to skate with a hockey team, and this is my sport because I'm Canadian. Like, I get what his team's narrative was. I say shame on you, Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah,
for playing politics.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just typically, Cheryl, I don't know if you agree or not, but you'll see, like, sports teams. I mean, there's the odd thing. Like, I remember it was understandable, Naheed Nenshi's last election in Calgary, and the Calgary Flames organization, and certainly its ownership group wanted, was it Bill Smith, right, to win? I remember it was a playoff game, and they had the LED ring lighting, and there was like a lot of political advertising in the arena, and it struck me as relatively significant at that moment, because you don't typically see it. Like, you don't see really, like, big brands, including sports franchises, getting political. I mean, you're potentially alienating like 50% of your fan base. Your thoughts on what we saw there?
Well, I mean, part of the reason is that those organizations don't want to align themselves politically, but typically, like, especially when you're talking about games, political parties don't want to put themselves out there too, because, like, yes, it's a huge stadium of people, you have a huge audience, but, like, what if when your picture goes up on the Jumbotron, people boo? Like, then it's a net loss. Then it's a huge loss. What if the next time that the Oilers play, they lose, and people are like, well, that's the Mark Carney curse. Like, it could, like, there is a net.
They did lose, by the way. They lost to the Jets. Yeah.
Because of Mark Carney.
Because of Mark Carney. But the risk is so high that typically you see political parties stay away from these opportunities, and it's not necessarily just the franchises saying we don't want to be seen as political.
Before we let you go, we're grateful for both of your time.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Jump in
go
really
ahead.
fast?
Of course you can.
Apparently, the premier, because she obviously listens to your show, apparently she suspended her press conference today. So she was obviously listening to our advice.
Right.
That she should. Yeah. Anyways, I just think that that's interesting for the viewers, that, like, now, based on the election, she's obviously a big Jespo fan, that she's now not, I don't know if that means she's not going to the States or doing any of those things, but she's not doing some press conferences, and maybe taking a step back to let the campaign of the CPC take way. So
Cheryl?
I just thought that was an interesting fact.
Cheryl, you've had 5 seconds to dissect this. What do you think?
I think there was a whole bunch of new allegations about the procurement scandal that came out in recent days, and this is a really great way to not answer questions on it. Okay, well, before we go, let's get to this. Smith and her health minister at the podium no more than 3 days ago over the weekend. We've been chomping at the bit to get this out there as well while we have these two political commentators with us. Cheryl Oates, Erika Barootes. As we wrap, we'll take a look at this story, which is obviously a developing story and one that we've been covering over the past number of weeks. But here's the most recent audio that we have from the health minister.
Your name and outlet. Hi, Carrie Tate from the Globe and Mail. My question's for the minister and the premier. Can you explain clarify why the board of AHS was dismissed?
Well, as I said earlier, Carrie, the government...
That is not before the courts.
Carrie,
the government
please, you asked a question. You're going to let the minister give an answer now.
The response that I'm going to be giving you is the same response I gave earlier, which is the government of Alberta has put forward its statement of defense, and in this AHS HR issue, and we stand by that defense.
The board being dismissed has nothing to do with the court case. It's
well,
a separate
it's all
issue.
before the courts right now, and
but
there's
that's
other,
not before the courts.
there are
and
other
even that isn't an
investigations
excuse.
going on.
You can
and
Carrie, are you
we
asking
have
questions or waiting for
investigations
answers?
going on by the Auditor General, as well as the former Judge Wyant, that is going to delve into all of these issues.
Thank you,
Now,
Carrie.
they
That was
mentioned
one question,
it
one
is
follow-up.
inappropriate for
The
the
Globe and
government to
Mail
cut a
has had
reporter
many
off
questions at these press conferences before.
Is it?
Your colleagues are
Can
behind you, waiting to
explain-
ask a
Do you
question,
mind if I ask
and I'd
them?
like to go
They're
to the
good.
next in line.
They said
As I said, one question, one follow-up today. I'd like to ask next the mic to ask their question.
Will you release the report that BLG submitted? As the Globe reported today, it was due at January 31st. Will you direct AHS to release that?
This is all before the courts, and you will get more information as time goes on.
Thank you, Carrie. Next, the mic, please.
All right, so that gives you a bit of a sense of how the relationship is right now between the Globe and Mail's Carrie Tate and Alberta's United Conservative Government. The background there, revelations that the Alberta government dissolved the board of AHS, the Provincial Health Authority, the same day the organization was scheduled to receive a report from investigators looking into whether or not some of its business deals were subject to so-called improper activity. I want to give both of you a chance to comment on this before we wrap. Cheryl, this is an ongoing story, but what's significant about this interaction in particular?
Well, I mean, Carrie's right. Like, that piece is not before the courts. Clearly, Adrienne Lagrange has been coached to say no matter what, if they are saying the words AHS, if this is in any way related, the easiest answer and truly the safest answer is just to say the matter is before the courts. But I think Carrie's doing a really good job of continuing to push and continuing to make her case and, talking over other people where she has to say this was unrelated. This is a new development. Come clean and tell us about this piece that you are able to talk about. So the more that the government dodges those questions and the more that they, try to cut off Carrie from speaking and other reporters from speaking, I think the worse look it is for the government at a time where it already looks pretty suspicious.
Erika?
I want to give my friend Sam Blackett a shout out because that is not an easy thing. Cheryl knows this. She oversaw all of the press secretaries during her time. It is a difficult job. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to. If you think he's jumping in, that is his job to do that. So I think he handled himself well.
Can I ask you? Can I say this? Can I ask you real quick? Number one, Sam Blackett. I've met him. I almost called him a kid in the sense that I'm pretty sure he's like young 20s. He's like young to mid 20s. People recognize his dad, Lindsay Blackett, a longtime conservative politician in Alberta, but so shout out to Sam for rising to a pretty prominent job at a relatively young age in his career. Mm-hmm. Is it his job to be sort of editorializing and locking horns with a journalist and making relatively sarcastic?
Well, there is a rule that it's like one question, one follow-up for fairness of all the media. I will say I'm not letting the minister off the hook. What I would advise is that they get a statement ready and they put a statement out about that specific board issue because they're going to get asked this at everything. So if you can control it, you can say, well, we've put out a statement exactly on that question and addressed it there. So that was what I would advise them to do on this, because Carrie's right. It doesn't have anything to do with the statement of defense. And so she's going to keep asking it. She's doing her job. Sam's job is to create an opportunity where all media outlets can ask a question. And that's not fair that Carrie, because she has a valid, she can get back in line and ask again.
But
it is the job of the press secretary.
So I've done this job for a premier, and Carrie's, all her colleagues are basically like, go Carrie, keep asking your questions. So it's not Sam's job to police the press gallery.
On a second one then.
So it's not Sam's job to police the press gallery. The press gallery can police themselves. That is why the association exists. It's his job to protect the reputation of his principals, which in this case is the premier and the minister who are at the mic. So yes, he can absolutely try to say it's one question, one follow-up. But at a certain point, his interactions are actually making this a more hostile, more aggressive, more clickbait clip. I want to watch that more because of the interactions of the press secretary, which means that he's actually hurting the reputation of the government. It would be easier if he knows Adriana Lagrange is just going to walk up to the mic and say, listen, this matters before the court and we're not going to answer it. Just let her do it. And then by the time Kerry gets her third answer like that, she's going to go to the back of the line. So I would say it's a nuanced balance for a press secretary. But for me, this kind of, he stepped over the line. He actually made me want to watch this clip more than had he just kept it cool.
Solid points. That was Cheryl Oates, joined by Erika, Barootes, co-hosts of The Discourse. Their most recent episode is out. Carney calls snap election. Is Poilievre doomed? You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you like it on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe as well, both on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. You guys have your next episode coming out when? Thursday morning?
You betcha.
5 a.m.
All right. We'll keep an eye out for it. Thanks for doing this. It's nice to see you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it. Real Talkers, let us know what you think about what you just heard on this. I love Gizmo. I don't know if Gizmo's talking about their podcast, The Discourse, or ours, Real Talk. But Gizmo says in our live chat, powered by Park Power, I really like this show because both sides talk with each other respectfully for the most part, which is good.
I think
and respectfully for the
that.
most part is good. We don't, I mean, there's room for a little, gray area.
Grinding of the gears.
Elbows up. What did you make of the elbows up thing with Mike Myers? I mean, it's it's the kind of calling in the celebrity factor.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, I feel like anything coming from political parties that tries to be like, I don't know, with celebrities, there's always a few moments that are a little cringe. You could tell, like, even Mike Myers being an actor, there were a couple lines where I was like, I don't know if he even liked this line in the script. Like when he asks him, will there even be a Canada Prime Minister? It's like a little kid looking up. Will there be a Canada Prime Minister? I thought that part was kind of cheesy, but I did like the production, the end shot with the Never 51 on the back of the jersey. I think that was very powerful.
Yeah.
And I like the comedy going back and forth with him asking Mike Myers if he's really Canadian and doing the trivia on him. I think whoever wrote it was probably pretty talented, and I think it hits with most Canadians because Mike Myers is one of those people, and I think Erika said that too, that like everyone can relate. Whether you're on the left or right or center, everyone loves Mike Myers. Everyone's seen Austin Powers. Everyone,
Well, maybe everyone loved Duh. Maybe loved Duh.
Well, now, but you know what I mean?
Because a lot of people will be pissed off that he's doing an ad for the Liberals, right?
Yeah, well, whenever you dip your water in politics, whether you're an athlete or a celebrity or anyone who has some momentum online, you're going to get pushback on that. That's why most of the time I try to stay back here and just push the buttons.
Yeah. Interesting when he says, will there even be a Canada, Mr. Prime Minister?
Will there be a Canada, sir?
I was talking to one of our sponsors, quite frankly, in the last week. And I don't know if he wants to be dragged into this by name. He didn't take a position on it, but he asked me that we were having lunch, like, I don't know, honestly, Johnny, like 6 months ago. Like we were having lunch way before Mark Carney. We were having lunch at a time where Justin Trudeau, like I'm talking before the holidays, like before Christmas. And at the time where people going, like we were seeing the comments even in our live chat, people going, it's time for Trudeau's walk in the snow. Like he's got to go. People were like, are the Liberals going to lose party status? Pierre Poilievre might as well just start calling him Prime Minister now. This kind of a thing. But the Donald Trump thing was happening, right? And the American election was looming. And, it would have been coming up, I guess, in a couple of weeks in November. And this guy says to me at that time, like 6 months ago, he said, can you imagine down the road a scenario where Canada ceases to exist? And I went, oh, come on. Like I go, oh, come on. He goes, try, like, I'm not cheering for that. He goes, I don't want that. I'm not cheering for it. He goes, but I'm just paying attention to like geopolitically the way that things are going and the way the economy's going. And he, early at this time, it would have been like, even before Americans had voted. But he was just seeing things and he was kind of asking that question. And he texted me like a week ago and was like, do you remember that question I asked you 6 months ago? Mm-hmm. Like people have been wondering. I mean, all this Donald Trump talk, I mean, we blow it off as ridiculous and silly. And Pierre Poilievre has said it'll never happen. And Justin Trudeau said it'll never happen. And Mark Carney and Chrystia Freeland, for that matter, and anybody in a position to serve as Prime Minister of Canada has said this will never happen. Canada will never be swallowed up by the United States. But I betcha that the reason that whoever wrote that script for that ad with Mike Myers put that question so prominently in that promo goes to show that they must have polling and must have information that more Canadians than we realize are asking serious questions about the actual future. And I'm not saying the future of Canada, like what's it going to look for our children's children? I'm not talking about that sort of esoteric mind exercise. I'm talking about the future of Canada and its existence as a nation. I don't think it's an accident that it's in the promo. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely not an accident. But it's just some parts of it I was like, you get that feeling it's not even, it's just natural, just comes to me where like a little scripted or whatever. But overall, I think the ad was definitely a win. Yeah.
The interesting point here from Michael, watching us live on YouTube. Michael says, but listen, Mike Myers didn't add that it didn't attack the Conservatives. It didn't attack the New Democrats. It's just defending Canada.
True, yeah.
He says, sure, it's got the Liberals in it, but it was a fairly neutral ad. Michael's not wrong. Like Mike Myers, I mean, you're appearing with the Prime Minister of Canada in the ad. Now that the writ's dropped, he's the Liberal leader, which is how we'll refer to him. But Michael's not wrong. Mike Myers doesn't say go buy your Liberal membership, but it's obviously a Liberal ad. Like, let's not fool ourselves. I don't know that I see the approach, the strategic approach that the Conservatives have taken with Pierre Poilievre, and they've got that messaging dialed in about what do they say? Like the hardworking families living on the safe streets, protected by brave troops under a proud flag. Like, you guys are going to hear him say that again and again and again. Could you see Poilievre reaching out to? I mean, Wayne Gretzky's done enough for Trump. Would he do it for Pierre?
I don't know.
He endorsed Stephen Harper back in the day.
Yeah, I think Gretzky's, he's taken his L, and I
Gun-shy.
don't think you'll see him promoting any political candidates during the election at all. He's been pretty quiet. His family's been pretty quiet since that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good point. The Common Good watching us on YouTube says the ad was really good. Finally, some comfort and not division and constant grievance. There's a fair point to be taken there as well. We want to get to more of your comments in just a minute, but I do want to remind you that this episode happens with the support of our incredible partners, and we'd love for you. A lot of you will say, well, what's the best way we can support Real Talk? Let me tell you, by supporting our sponsors like the team at California Closets of Canada. This is a proudly Canadian-owned and operated company. Matter of fact, any work that's being done in Alberta right now, any California Closets design and install is being done with Alberta talent. Everything's being manufactured in Alberta, and the materials are being sourced from across Canada. This is a family-owned, Alberta-based business providing custom closets, systems, and solutions for the entire home, including boot rooms, mud rooms, laundry rooms, stairwells, secondary bedrooms doubling as home offices. You got to see what they can do with Murphy beds. Absolutely amazing. California Closets can custom design an installation to fit your space and your budget. You can learn more about the different budget levels and request a free consultation today by visiting their website. That's californiaclosets.ca. What an amazing week last week for our friends at UCAN Youth Services. Their comedy nights wrapping up at the Starlight Casino and the comic strip, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for their vital programs, including the Relentless program. We've been telling you about these outreach workers that are reaching out to and working with the top 50 young people most known to police. These are the 50 kids, my friends, kids from 12 to 17 that are in and out of the judicial system. These are 12-year-olds that are getting arrested, and oftentimes these are young people facing very serious charges. The UCAN Relentless outreach workers stop at nothing to reach out to youth and empower them in making positive, healthy, and life-changing decisions. That can start with getting a roof over their head, getting lunch in their bellies. I mean, some of these young people have really, really never had a fair shot at life, and UCAN is helping make that happen. It receives referrals from the Edmonton Police Service Youth Unit. You can learn more about it at ucan.ca. If you feel compelled to make a donation today or to reach out, find a way that you can volunteer or help out. You can do that on their website. That's ucan.ca. Complete Care Restoration has more than 25 years of experience restoring properties and rebuilding peace of mind. That includes black mold, asbestos, sewer backups, burst pipes, whatever it is, smoke damage, fire damage, flood damage. They've seen it all. And their team of talented and certified professionals is available 24/7 to help you out. Don't wait for something like this to get worse, and don't try to do it yourself. They'll work with your insurance company. You can take it off your plate. You can contact them today or any day, anytime at CompleteCareRestoration.ca.
Yeah, we didn't chat about it, but, feces was smeared on the Gretzky statue here in Edmonton.
What?
Yeah, Thursday night. I think they found it Friday morning. Yeah. Go search it up right now. We'll show the story.
What am I going to search? Feces?
Yeah.
Is our firewall going to stop us?
Yeah, how'd you not see this?
Yeah, no, I don't know. Feces smeared on the Gretzky statue.
Yeah.
Was it? This doesn't matter. Sorry for anybody eating breakfast or lunch. Was it? Oh, it's on his face.
Yeah, and all over the chest area too. I think it happened Thursday after the Jets game versus the Oilers.
How about this? Reporting at ctvnews.ca, the Wayne Gretzky statue outside Rogers Place in Edmonton has been vandalized with feces. See, if it's Real Talk reporting, we can just say he's covered in shit. But he's been vandalized with feces. A CTV News Edmonton photographer captured images of the fecal matter smeared on the statue. The photographer also noted the smell of fecal matter surrounding the statue. Jeez. Okay. I mean, I don't know why all of a sudden in my mind, I'm like, was it human? Was it dog? Did they use a napkin when they picked it up? And I don't know why I care about this. That would have been from 1988, although there were some hard feelings, obviously, when he went down to the LA Kings. But I would say for the past 35 years, that would have been a way to pick a fight with an entire city.
Yeah.
To smear feces, to smear shit on the Gretzky statue.
And I think it still angers people now, but you've also got people who are like, yeah, I can see that.
Jeez. And you got a Russian who's getting set to break his goal record. It's shaping up to be a bit of a tough year for 99. Wow. It kind of like, we've been seeing the Trump, is it the golf clubs that have been vandalized over the past while? In particular, in what I think we've had this conversation before, like when demonstrators are, glue their hands to art exhibits or splash paint at art galleries, and then they'll say climate change is whatever, and then we talk about this on the show. We've done entire shows on it. Remember that? We did an entire episode where was it, at the Louvre or something like that? I don't know. Remember somebody threw paint all over a Monet or a Picasso. What was it?
Yeah.
Anyway,
no, it's soup.
But you remember, it was
Campbell's
soup. That's
yeah.
right, Campbell's soup. Good call. And remember we talked about this, is it productive or is it counterproductive? And people will say, well, it will just anger most people and it will turn them against the cause. And then others say, yeah, but you wouldn't be talking about it if they hadn't have done something dramatic. Smearing shit on the Gretzky statue. Jeez. Gosh. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of hit a level where I think most people, and this is like we just talked about with Erika and Cheryl, with the Oilers. I recognize he is the Prime Minister of Canada. Mark Carney is the Prime Minister of Canada, but allowing your brand, your logo, the oil drop, the Edmonton Oilers logo on the chest of the Liberal leader in Alberta and skating for a team named after and in honor of the province's petroleum roots. And I just think, isn't it interesting to see what happens when athletes and sports teams and politicians and politics and policies all kind of intertwine?
Sure.
I would imagine that if you're a Liberal supporter and an Oilers fan, you absolutely love it. You're over the moon. We're used to seeing our federal politicians repping either the Habs or the Leafs jersey. But I just know even based on, and people can subscribe, follow at Real Talk RJ on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. We put out our shorts. You know what the comments were like. I mean, I'll look them up right now. But the comments, once Mark Carney was skating for the Oilers, it was Oilers fans just losing their minds. And I'm not saying every single one of them, but the top comments were basically Corey Perry should run him and do his job. I'd rather not see this. Go Poilievre. My vote's for Poilievre. Just kind of interesting to see. I wonder if maybe Wayne Gretzky, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's a smart guy, but did he underestimate the blowback of showing his, how is it possibly worth it for Gretzky to do this? And also, who's carrying shit around? Do you know what I mean?
I don't think they're carrying it around.
Well, they either had to shit it out of themselves on the spot,
late at night,
or shit it out earlier and carry it around, or find it on the pavement.
Well, it must have been done late at night because they didn't see it right after the game. They removed it in the morning. So, yeah.
Gosh, I don't know. Unwise for 2069 says Gretzky's not a Canadian anymore. Come on, guys. Isn't a Canadian anymore, in my opinion. Lives in the States for years and years and hasn't picked up his Order of Canada. I don't know if that last part's true. That'd be interesting if it was. I don't know that we're gauging Canadians, whether or not somebody's Canadian, on whether or not they live in Canada. That seems to me to be a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of proud Canadians that live and work in the United States and around the world. I've got a buddy who's a proud Canadian. He works in mining, and his career has taken him all over the world. South America, Africa. Does it make him any less Canadian? I think that people are maybe kind of politicizing their own perspectives on that one. But gosh, Wayne Gretzky always just seemed like he was on a whole other level. Like you would never, I remember even hearing little kids start ripping Wayne Gretzky on the playground when I'm picking up my little guy from school, and they're talking about Gretzky and Trump, and these are like little kids that barely understand anything, and even part of me is like, whoa, he's the great one. That's a capital G, a capital O. He is the great one.
But time is moving on, and
you're right.
Faster than we know it, and we look back, and it's been years and years, and in another 20 years, will kids even look up to Wayne Gretzky? I mean, not that they don't and won't, but not as much. I mean, it's like looking back on other players, like, Gordie Howe and Bobby Orr. Like, we look up to them, but do kids nowadays who are 15 and 16 even connect with Bobby Orr, Gordie Howe, Rocky Richard, all these names that we heard as kids and were like they were the greats back then? I mean, Gretzky's slowly fading into that kind of realm,
Yeah. Yeah, I see Lightning Rod says, I can't believe that people are trying to justify Poilievre's refusal to get a security clearance. He did speak to that the other day. We talked about that on our most recent episode of Real Talk. You can definitely check that out wherever you get your podcasts or find it on YouTube. James here in our chat, solid chat today, by the way. We just got a note from Restream, 1,000 messages already. Thanks, guys. Everyone's all fired up. James says Gretz didn't pick up his promotion in the Order of Canada when he went from a member to an officer. Okay. Kenzie says, remember when we were told the Terry Fox statue had been vandalized during the convoy? Somebody had put a Canadian flag on his shoulders and some flowers. You remember that, though? The Canadian flag. Kenzie's not wrong. The Canadian flag had become so politicized. Man, wild times. What a time to be alive. Dubious, probably not wrong, saying Canadians living in the States right now should move probably before ICE, before the immigration authority sends them all to El Salvador. Also probably right. And Ken, with the $5 on the Super Chat, says, as Shooter McGavin once said, I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast. Ooh. To which Happy Gilmore responded,
eat shit for breakfast?
You eat shit for breakfast? Did you see the trailers out?
Jesus.
Happy Gilmore 2 coming out in July?
Yeah, I can't wait.
This is going to be a big moment.
Yeah.
Big moment.
Yeah.
We've got, before we get to our positive reflection for today, and I absolutely love this one from Brinleigh, we've got a big announcement coming tomorrow, which we're excited about. And through the week, we've been working hard behind the scenes. We know that you have high expectations of this show. We have high expectations of ourselves. And that is why when a federal election is called, it is far from business as usual. And so starting tomorrow, we're going to introduce you to a guest that'll be making their Real Talk debut. We'll be talking about a new project. And the day after that, we're going to talk about another partnership, another collaboration. We will have you covered from coast to coast to coast over the next 5 weeks as Canadians prepare to cast their ballot. But our coverage is made more meaningful, it is more insightful, and it is more focused with feedback from you to talk at ryanjesperson.com. Let us know what your top election issue is. Let us know what riding you're keeping an eye on. Let us know what you'd love to see discussed on the show if you haven't yet. I want to give a shout out to Jake, who wrote in. Jake sent us an email just this morning, as a matter of fact, at 5:59, Johnny. He was up bright and early, and he said, Jesper, I'm sure, he said, I really hope that you guys are going to talk about the Danielle Smith, the Breitbart interview. Says, what the fresh hell is this? He says, I would say it's attempted election tampering, and I can't imagine that Poilievre is too happy about this either. That from Jake, but I also wanted to let Jenny and Nathan know that we also received your emails on the Breitbart interview, but they are far too hot. They are far too hot for a Monday morning, John, so we will file them away for Friday as we present the flamethrower in partnership with our friends at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. If your take is especially hot, if your flamethrower is fired up, this is where you can tune in every single Friday, and you can find those released as special episodes on our YouTube channel for those of you that subscribe there, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. Every Monday, just in case you've got a case of the Mondays, our friends at Kuby Energy and Solar by Kuby want to remind you that there is good happening in the world all around us. This is where we eschew negativity and renew our faith in humanity. It's Positive Reflections, presented by our friends at Solar by Kuby. And this one from Brinleigh, who sent us a link on Instagram, wondering if we had seen this, and we had not. John, we absolutely love this. Check this out. A group of 4 couples. They've been best friends for more than 30 years. They turned their dream into reality by buying a tiny town. They bought a tiny town where they're going to be able to live together in retirement. This is known as the Llano Exit Strategy, and this is located near Austin, Texas, right by the beautiful river there. This town, this small community, was designed with the help of an architect by the name of Matt Garcia, and it offers a sustainable and peaceful getaway just about an hour and a half out of the city. So each of the cabins, they're very modest. As you can see, they're outfitted with plywood interiors. They've got space heaters. They're about 350 square feet. They cost like $40,000 to build, so relatively affordable. These are lifelong friends, like we said, more than 30 years, that have created more than just a living space. They built a dream retreat where they can enjoy their golden years together. 4 couples, they're all going to age in place together. How amazing is this? You can check out the photos if you're listening to this on the podcast by following Profit on Instagram. That's Profit. And our thanks to Brinleigh for passing that along. If you've seen something in the course of your day that has really made you smile, maybe you witnessed a random act of kindness, maybe you paid it forward and you'd like the world to know about it, send us an email and tell us about it to talk@ryanjesperson.com. Positive Reflections is proudly presented by our friends at Solar by Kuby. You can get a free solar quote today by visiting kuby.ca. Coming up in the next episode of Real Talk, our federal election coverage continues. We're going to introduce you to a political commentator in Ontario and tell you about an exciting new project. We'll take a look at the campaigns as they start to make real promises. They start to unfold real policy. And we'll get to more of your comments that have been left on our YouTube episodes, that have been emailed into the show, or that have hit us up on social media. Thanks for being a part of today's show, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harman Kandola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjesperson.com.